In just a moment, you can all see how the shogunate, the samurai regime, was born, and how the Imjin War put East Asia into a vortex of war. Now, let's start Robin's record. In Japan, during the Heian period, local security weakened and the powerful clans became samurai and armed themselves to protect their manors. And as time went by, they developed into huge samurai regiments in the process of uniting with one another or repeating struggles. At the end of the Heian period, they grew into forces that determined the direction of Japanese power. The center of Japan during this period was the Kansai region. The eastern part of Japan, now the Kanto region with Tokyo, was barren, so the Japanese recognized the people living there as savages, and the lords of the Kanto region relied heavily on samurai to protect themselves from these savages. Then, Minamoto no Yoritomo from the Kanto region overpowered the nobles and created the first Japanese samurai regime, the Kamakura Shogunate. Shogunate means general's camp. In other words, shogunate regime literally means a tent where the shoguns stay and direct the operation. The shogunate regime refers to the government governed by samurai. The shoguns secured land control of samurai and entrusted security and management of their manors to the samurai under their command to consolidate the system. Although the Kamakura Shogunate appeared and took power, the emperor's succession to the throne was not over. The shogunate took the real power, but the monarch was still the emperor. As time went by, the emperor gradually became a symbolic entity in charge of rituals, and a feudal society peculiar to Japan was formed in which the shogunate, headed by the shogun, exercised power in politics. After the abolition of the envoy to the Tang dynasty, Japan did not have formal diplomatic relations with China, but private trade was actively carried out. The large influx of coins from the Song dynasty led to the development of a monetary economy, and a culturally new movement emerged, including the introduction of Neo-Confucianism and Zen Buddhism, a sect of Buddhism. In addition, in some regions, double cropping was spread, and the handicraft industry and commerce were also developed. Markets also began to open regularly throughout the country. In the late 13th century, when the Kamakura Shogunate was in power, Yuan and Goryeo allied forces invaded Japan twice. Japan defeated the allied forces with the help of a devastating typhoon, but the Kamakura Shogunate began to decline. Then, Emperor Go-Daigo took advantage of the chaos and joined Ashikaga Takauji to destroy the Kamakura Shogunate. Later, when Ashikaga Takauji established a new emperor and established the Muromachi Shogunate in Kyoto, Emperor Go-Daigo fled to the south. This led to the division of the North and South, known as the Northern and Southern Courts period, where two emperors coexisted for some time, but Ashikaga Yoshimitsu, the third shogun, unified the Northern and Southern Courts and established national control in 1392. With the unification of the Northern and Southern Courts, samurai lost their lords to devote their loyalty and became pirates who looted the coastal and inland areas of the Korean peninsula and mainland China and engaged in smuggling for a living. Pirates temporarily declined during the tally trade period between the Ming dynasty and Japan, but after the tally trade ended, they began to reappear. The tally trade refers to the trade between the Ming dynasty and the countries paying tribute to it, where tally means a ticket with details of the traded products. A tally was distributed in each country with a certain quota, and only confirmed merchants could trade by issuing a tally in advance, preventing the impersonation of merchants and pirates. The Muromachi Shogunate secured economic stability by cracking down on pirates and interacting with the Ming dynasty through the tally trade, a tribute trade, to develop the lives and culture of the commoners. In addition, during this period, irrigation facilities were maintained, which helped the spread of double cropping across the country, and commerce developed rapidly and currency was distributed. In addition, the foundations for the tea ceremony and flower arrangement, which represent the traditional culture of Japan, were laid during this period. However, due to criticism from the Japanese ruling class about the Ming dynasty's intervention with the investiture system over Japan, the relationship soon ceased, and the Japanese who wanted to trade with the Ming dynasty became pirates and began to reappear on the shores of the Ming dynasty and the Joseon dynasty. That did not mean that the central government did nothing. The Muromachi Shogunate's power weakened, so it had no power to stop the pirates. The shoguns were no longer the shoguns they had once been. Along with the emperor, they were no more than puppets. Then, after the mid-15th century, the Sengoku period began, in which influential daimyo from all over the regions fought for supremacy. It was the matchlock handed down from Portugal that played a major role in ending this division. Oda Nobunaga laid the foundation for unification by using gun tactics, and Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who succeeded, ended the chaos of the Sengoku period and unified the whole country. Toyotomi Hideyoshi conducted a nationwide land survey and standardized weights and measures. In addition, he confiscated farmers' weapons and banned the status movement, which has been intensified through the Sengoku period, wearing off the mutiny custom. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, who unified the whole country, sought to actively enter the foreign market for the expansion of trade and land, military power buildup, etc. So he asked the Joseon dynasty to cooperate for its invasion of the Ming dynasty, which was rejected. Toyotomi Hideyoshi used this as an excuse to invading the Joseon dynasty with over 160,000 troops, which is known as the Imjin War. In the early days of the war, the Japanese army was victorious in many battles with the help of rich combat experience gained through long civil wars and the power of their matchlock guns. However, while King Sanjo of the Joseon dynasty fled to Uiju and requested reinforcements from the Ming dynasty, volunteer soldiers arose in various places, and the naval forces led by Admiral Yi Sun-shin became active, changing the aspect of the war. And with the Ming dynasty fearing the Liaodun region, the fence of Beijing could be threatened, the war escalated into an international war between the three East Asian countries. The Joseon Ming allied forces recaptured Pyongyang Castle and set the stage for a turnaround. However, when the Ming dynasty forces were defeated in the Battle of Bokjaeguan and failed to recapture the Hansong capital, the war became deadlocked, and peace negotiations between the Ming dynasty and Japan began to resolve the situation. However, negotiations broke down due to Japan's excessive demands, and the war began again and is known as the Chonggyu War. However, shortly after the death of Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the Japanese forces withdrew, which ended the 7-Year War. When the war with Joseon dynasty ended, a battle broke out in Japan in 1600 between the Western army supporting the Toyotomi clan and the Eastern army supporting Tokugawa Ieyasu. This is known as the Battle of Sekigahara. In this battle, in which about 120,000 Western and 90,000 Eastern troops fought, Tokugawa Ieyasu won the position of shogun despite his inferior troops. He then set up the shogunate in Edo, the region he had ruled and is now called Tokyo. What kind of politics would Tokugawa Ieyasu carry out in the future? What kind of culture would develop during the Tokugawa shogunate? Robin's record will continue with the third part of Japanese history.